How to study for a physics exam. In this video, I'm going to give you my personal tips and tricks for how to prepare for a physics exam. You can apply these steps for 1 day of studying, 2 days, 3 weeks, 15 weeks of studying. Obviously, the more time you put into it, the better it is. So stick through this video. I'm going to show you everything that I'm going to do. You guys can do the same thing. And obviously, you can drop some comments down below if you're curious and you have some questions of how to study for an exam. So what we're going to start off with is search up physics for scientists and engineers. We don't care about the 10th edition, but we're just going to put PDF. Boom, Google search. First link right here, you can click on this. This thing will load. This is the 7th edition. In my videos, I've been using the 9th edition. You could kind of explore and find whatever edition you want. Take a look at this, 1,500 pages. Everything in here looks clean. Amazing PDF. You can scan this, you can export some pages, plug it into ChatGPT, ask it some questions, but the entire textbook is here. So free, you can learn all of this stuff on your own. All you need is an internet connection, Google, download this PDF, and that is step number 1. Step number 2, I'm going to pull up my personal version since I have some bookmarks here. Let's say you're studying for this modern physics, right? You have several chapters here. I've done 7-minute summaries of all of these. So if you want to look at a big summary of how I look through these, you could take a look. I've posted videos on all of these chapters, 7-minute summaries. Obviously, you're not going to get all the content in, but my kind of style of studying is just get as much information in as possible. Now that you know a bit of the theory, here's how you prepare for an exam. Open up a chapter. Let's say you want to study relativity. Boom, you could look through this. I would say start with the summary. Take a look at the summary. And then what you have to do is pull up a piece of paper and write down all the questions that are assigned to you in the homework. So here are some problems, right? These problems, let's say you have problem 13. You have to do this problem. You can even open a Word document, copy this, paste it. Do that for every problem in relativity, and then move on to the next chapter and the next chapter and the next chapter. At the end, you're going to have one piece of paper or one Google Doc or Word document, which has all of your problems in it. More often than not, these are homework problems, so you should have done a bit of this back in the day and gotten some marks for it. Even if you got 100% on this, still go through the problem, go through the solution, and see how you feel about it. And I would say try to solve the problem on your own again, even if you got it 100% right the first time. The reason you're doing this is to remind yourself, what is the solution? Is there any little tricks and stuff that the exam pulls? And once you have that entire list, you can kind of break it down, but I would say go through all of those problems multiple times, not just one time. Go through each and every single problem 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Solve the problem 5 times. If you look at something 5 times, there's no chance you're going to forget it. You're going to be bored of it because you've seen it so many times. So go through each of the problems. If you're a little bit sick of the problems or you're kind of unsure of how to solve them, if you go in the chapters, here they introduce principle of Galilean relativity. They talk about some stuff. Check out these quick quizzes as well. Each time you see a quick quiz in the book, just outline it, maybe copy paste this in your Word document too. These are kind of conceptual questions. They don't want you to do too much mathematics. It's a quick quiz. You're supposed to just read it out and be like, boom, 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 answer the question. And more often than not, these things outline one of the common pitfalls or like tricks or like road bumps that you encounter with these problems. So outline these as well. Scroll through the book and you'll find a few interesting ones. Here's another quick quiz right here. But what I want you guys to find, here we got a Michelson-Morley experiment. I'm just looking for a example. We're going to zoom through until we find an example. In the book, this book does quite a good job with the examples. We got more quick quizzes. Okay. Example 39.1, the first example in chapter 39, relativity. What is the period of the pendulum? In here in yellow, they give you the question. The period of the pendulum is measured to be 3 seconds in the reference frame of the pendulum. What is the period when measured by an observer moving at a speed? Boom. And then they give you the solution. Conceptualize, categorize, use an equation, and you get an answer. So I would say copy paste this problem in your Word document as well. Keep it in the section for relativity. Keep things in separate sections so you kind of know what you have to know, like which equations you have to use for each section. And then you build up an entire document or piece of paper with a lot of problems in it. Also, next to your piece of paper, you can put in kind of interesting equations that you use more often, like this equation here. You can copy paste it so you can refer back to it. So after you've done this for each and every chapter, and you've done this for each and every quick quiz and each and every example that you're interested in, you're going to have a ton of problems. Maybe for one chapter here, you're going to have, let's say, 5 homework problems. Let's say you're going to have 2 or 3 quick quizzes. Let's say 5 quick quizzes, and let's say 5 examples. 15 problems just on one chapter. 15 problems, not too bad if you spend maybe 5 minutes on each. It is quite a long time. Maybe you spend more. As you see in my videos, I spend like 40 minutes on one problem and I still get it wrong. So in preparation for a final exam, you kind of want to schedule your time appropriately. You don't want to spend 40 minutes on a problem if you have one day to study. But you do want to look at the problem. Just reading the problem and looking at the solution and trying to consolidate the information in your head is really, really helpful. And you're going to remember it more often than not if you read it once. If you never read it or just look at it one time, you're not going to remember it. So you have to read it multiple times. So you have 15 problems for this, maybe you have 15 problems for this, maybe you have more problems in one chapter, less problems in another, depending on how your professor organizes this. You have an assortment of problems for each chapter. Another thing you can include is if you've taken this course with a professor and they include slides, go through each and every slide as you're going through relativity. Let's say you go through the chapter relativity, you look at the slides adjacent, and sometimes the professor puts a few practice problems in the slides. Copy and paste those also in your Word document. So you have all of the problems in one section and just look at the solution and try to understand the solution. And you can use ChatGPT, you can drop a comment in this video, you could look online, copy paste the problem in Google. You should find a solution more often than not. At this point, you're going to have a lot of problems and it might get a bit kind of overwhelming. We just want to go through them slowly, one at a time, and write down anything that you think is confusing, write down anything that you think is a trick that they're going to try to finesse you with in the final exam. And once you go through all of this, you should try to push through it and get through big sections. Like let's say you do 3 chapters, 15 problems for each, you have 45 problems for one day. Then you do 3 more 45 problems and then 2 more. So in 2 to 3 days, let's say today is Friday, your exam is on Monday morning, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you could go through all of the chapters. But what I recommend, and if you have the energy, go through all of the questions in one day. The second day, go through all of the questions again. Maybe you can start with the last question and go backwards. If you're tired with starting with relativity, you could start with the last chapter and go backwards, or you can start with somewhere in the middle. It's up to you. Just go through all the problems in one day. Try to take breaks. Mostly what I try to do is work for 1 hour. If you get tired, go on a walk. Walks are fantastic. Einstein went on a lot of walks and he figured out a bunch of crazy shit while he was walking out in nature. So take some little breaks, but don't take breaks and do some stupid shit like scroll on your phone. So go outside, I don't know, look at the sun, not too long, maybe look at a tree or something, and go back and try to understand what is the question trying to ask you. So if you do this for one day, let's say you put 7 hours into studying, 7 hours, 7 chapters, 1 hour for each chapter, 15 problems, maybe you do 10 minutes on each problem. I don't know, 5 minutes on each problem. After this, you're going to have a lot of information in your brain. What you want to do is take a piece of paper and write down just from memory, what are the important things? Write them down because this is going to test your kind of recollection of memories. Write down the important equations from this chapter, important equations from this chapter, important equations from this chapter. Once you look at the piece of paper, you're going to see a ton of important equations, and you're also going to have in your mind a ton of important problems that you've done. If you look at the equation and automatically you can think of a problem related to this. So let's say I did this chapter on relativity. I look at this muon problem. I remember a muon traveling towards a mountain, and then they're asking me something about relativistic effects. Or I remember this pendulum problem. We have a pendulum with a specific period of oscillation. They're asking us for the period of oscillation if you're an observer going at this speed of light. I'm just kind of remembering this. I don't remember the whole solution. Write down in words what the problem is right next to the equation. So if you do that, you're going to have this whole web, the big section relativity, a bunch of equations around that, and then a bunch of problems around each equation. You do that for each chapter, fill up maybe 1 whole piece of paper, 2 whole pieces of paper, and just keep looking at it. Another tip I have is once you have this piece of paper with all the problems, try to consolidate it on 1 or 2 big pieces of paper. Put that piece of paper somewhere where you're sitting. Let's say my desk is over here. Put this piece of paper on the wall on your desk and just keep looking at it. When you're resting, you can just relax, look at the problem and kind of just think about the equations and think about the problems. And if you think about it often, right, Let's say you go on a walk as well. Take the piece of paper with you, fold it, put it in your pocket. You're walking around, you're bored. Pull out the piece of paper and look at it and just don't stress about remembering anything. Just look at it, read it. I know it might feel kind of queasy in your stomach. You're like, damn, I have to remember all of this crazy shit. I'm very, very like overwhelmed. Just look at it. You don't have to study anything. You don't have to go crazy. Just look at the piece of paper. If you look at it 16 times in one day, tomorrow you're going to look at the paper, and before you look at it, you're going to be like, I know exactly what's here. This is the feeling that you want to have when you go into the exam. Don't stress if you don't have this feeling. Obviously, the exam is a different scenario. You don't have the internet with you. You don't have YouTube. You don't have ChatGPT. You have to sit down with a piece of paper and a pencil, and you have to grind out for 3 hours. So you kind of want to do all this studying before, maybe 1, 2, 3 days beforehand. When you sit in the exam, you want to just relax. Remember any equations that you haven't seen before. Write them down on the exam. If you remember them, if you don't stress about it, but just write down anything on the side of the exam paper that you think is important. Then read the problem. And as soon as you read the problem, let's say it says something about relativistic effects, says speed of 0.96 c relative to the pendulum. Automatically, you can jump to the section on relativity, and automatically from there, you can jump to an equation which you have seen in a problem that was very, very similarly organized. And this is super important if your exam covers multiple topics. In this chapter, or in this kind of modern physics section, we've covered relativity, some quantum physics, quantum mechanics, a lot of atomic physics, molecules, nuclear structure, and some crazy stuff over here, particle physics and cosmology. So I'm going to break things down into like big sections. I would say 3 big sections I think about in this modern physics subject is relativity. That is one huge section, unrelated to everything else over here. Quantum physics, quantum mechanics is kind of a second one, so maybe chapter 40, 41. And then atomic physics, 42, 43, 44. All of this stuff is kind of in a similar chapter. Maybe you could split it up into 2, but 3 big sections. And then these 2 you can consider as like miscellaneous, I don't know, section 4. So 3 to 4 big sections. Try to have this on a piece of paper, divide a piece of paper into 4 quadrants, put in as much information, just a piece of printer paper, put in as much info as you can in one quadrant, then another, then another, then another. Tape this on your wall, tape this on your bedside table, keep looking at it as often as possible, and keep questioning yourself, like, what am I confused about here? If you're just sitting and thinking, and you're like, okay, I can't remember something from quantum physics. What is it that I can't remember? Go in, refresh your mind on what it is that's actually in that chapter. You could do that easily by going to the summary. Check out the summary section over here. More often than not, everything here is going to be included, which is important. But sometimes there's equations that are missing from here. So you have to go back in the chapter, look through it. This is why the problems are important, because if you go through every single homework problem, every single professor recommended problem, every single quick quiz. I know it's a lot, let's say 100 problems overall. You're going to see some problems use these equations in the summary. Some problems use some other equations that are not in the summary. This is your way of kind of getting a landscape overview of all of the stuff you need to know, and just keep looking at it over and over and over. Don't worry, don't be stressed. What you want to do is just remind yourself, what is it that I'm studying, and anything that you're confused about, Google it, Wikipedia, ChatGPT, explain this to me, drop a comment down below. And those are my tips to prepare for an exam. Once you go into the exam, you want to just breathe, be relaxed. If you start stressing and you get in a kind of weird state where you're getting like a bunch of brain fog, that is not good. So you just want to be relaxed. This is why looking at this stuff over and over and over again reduces that kind of fear barrier. If you just keep looking at these equations, the first time you look at this equation, you'll be like, what the hell is this? This gives me anxiety. But if you write this down on a piece of paper and keep looking at the piece of paper every 15 minutes of the day, eventually you're going to be like, okay, I'm not too scared of this. And then when you see it on the exam, you're not going to get any kind of anxiety or brain fog or anything like this. So in the exam, drink a little bit of water, eat beforehand, don't stress too much. It's a regular day. Go in, and then it's pretty much going to be exactly like how you've been preparing, how you've been practicing for the exam. You're going to have a ton of problems. You don't know which problem is related to which section, but since you've seen it so many times, you're going to be like, okay, I know that this like photoelectric effect is related to quantum physics over here, and I know this equation over here. I can kind of say the K over here is kinetic energy, this H is Planck's constant, F is the frequency of a photon, and then this little phi is the work function. Kind of, you can explain each of those things to yourself. If you don't know them, this is where you go back to studying. Just check ChatGPT, what is this equation? Help me understand it. And yeah, when you go in the exam, look through each of the questions, read them one at a time, slowly, and just kind of like you're reading a piece of paper, like no need to stress about trying to figure out a solution. Just read them, and if you think about something, if you kind of see that the question fits into one of these three big sections, you can just write relativity section, this equation I think is useful. Just write that next to the question. No need to even do it. That takes maybe 1 minute. 50 seconds, read the question. 10 seconds, write down something that you think about. Don't stress if you can't think of anything. Maybe look at the problem for another 60 seconds, 2 minutes on one problem, move on to the next one and do the same thing. Boom, boom, boom. Let's say you have 30 questions. Boom. You take like 1 minute on each, 30, maybe 45 minutes just reading everything and kind of getting like acclimated with the environment of the exam. Then you can go and figure out which questions you 100% know what to do for. There's going to be a few where you're like, okay, I kind of know what to do. If there's none, don't stress. Just start from the top and then try to solve the problem. Let's say it's a multiple choice exam. Read the question, try to figure out categorically where it is. This is why they solve the problems. Let me find an example over here. So they have an example right here. I'm not going to read it. It says conceptualize, categorize, and then find the solution. Conceptualize basically says, this question here, all of these words are telling you something. What are they telling you? Draw a picture, try to figure out which section over here it fits in. Categorize is basically exactly that. Try to figure out which equation might be useful here, which section of the textbook does this problem fit into. And then algebra, plug stuff in, solve some stuff. Do some unit analysis, make sure your units look good. That should take maybe like 5 minutes per problem. After you're done with that, keep checking the time, see how much time you have for an exam. Let's say you have 2 hours to do the entire exam, you have 20 questions. You want to spend like 30 minutes just reading each question slowly, trying to understand what's going on. Spend like 5 minutes trying to solve each question. If you get stuck, don't stress, move to the next problem. Just write down why you're stuck in words. Be like, I am stuck here because blank. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what this symbol means. I don't know what equation to use. I have no idea what this part of the sentence of the problem means. You can highlight something that's confusing. Just make sure when you go back, you're like, okay, I know where I was stuck. Move on to the next problem. See if some information in the next preceding problems gives you information about the problem you were stuck on. And then once you're done everything, go back to the first one and just check again, what did I do? Even if you answer the problem correctly, read it. Try to analyze what you've done if you have extra time. If you don't have extra time, don't stress about this, but it's always good to double check. Sometimes you made some stupid mistakes. And if you go through it a second time, you're more often going to spot that mistake if you go through it kind of slowly. So leave yourself 30 minutes at the end of the exam if you have that time to go through everything again, and then boom, submit it. You should be chilling. So I hope this was helpful, little video to kind of prepare you guys for the studying, but please go through all of those problems. I know it sounds kind of daunting, but sit down. It will take 1 hour to go through, write down each problem you have to do for the exam or for the homework. You have maybe 3 problems per chapter. Write down what problem it is, and then sit down, download the book. You can see it's free online. Make sure you have the right version if your homework is from a specific version, because different versions have different problem numbers. So you don't want to do incorrect problems that are not given to you in the class. And then let's say after 2 hours, you have that entire list of all the problems. You can read the problems. Go through, read the problems, basically like it's an exam. Try to solve it on your own. The second you don't know what to do, ask yourself, where am I confused? Kind of like you're doing an exam. Do all the homework problems like you're doing an exam. And then check online, how do I solve this problem? Read the solution step by step. Each and every single line, like right here, for example, we have 3 lines of math. 1, 2, 3, and in the third one at the end, they highlight the answer in blue. Each of these lines, you should be able to comfortably say what's happening here. If you see a solution like this online or ChatGPT or in a solution manual and you don't know what's happening, you have to slow down, ask yourself, what do I not understand here? Maybe you don't know where an equation is coming from. Read the theory of the equation, try to understand why they're using it. Maybe you don't know what a symbol in here means. Maybe you don't know algebraically how they move from one step to another. Explain to yourself and write that down in your huge document of all of the answers. And again, if you do this every single day, let's say you have a whole week to study, you're going to be chilling because you're going to see all these problems 16 times. There's no chance you're going to forget anything. And also, it's not like you're trying to remember the solution. You're trying to understand what they're doing. So in that process, you're going to figure out sometimes they use an equation where it's like, I have no idea why they would use that equation. But then in the solution, they show you how this equation is a quicker way to get to the problem than another equation. You're going to learn that if you go through the problems. This is also why you should do homework that you've gotten 100% on and you feel comfortable with, because you're going to learn something new. You're going to learn something new that applies to another chapter. For example, all these chapters, quantum mechanics and atomic physics, they're interconnected. So make sure you read everything again multiple times, not just once, twice, 3 times, 5 times, and you should be chilling. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below if this makes sense, if this is a good strategy. This was what I used. I just went through this. I spent like maybe hopped on like a FaceTime with a couple of friends that were doing the same exam. And we literally spent one entire night going through each and every line in all of the problems that we did. We spoke about it. We tried to understand and compare. If you don't have a friend that's taking this class, ChatGPT will always help you. Just be like, I'm doing this example. I have no idea what's happening here. Please explain to me, like, why are they doing it this method? And you should be good. Don't stress. If you want to take a break, call a relative, call a friend, go on a walk, listen to a podcast, listen to some music, drink a lot of water, and eat some fruits, veggies, eat some food, and you should be chilling. Good luck, guys. Keep studying. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.